What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Leo's Nerd Talk, and today we're going to be going over my favorite movie from every year that I've been alive. So let's get into that. Now, the time that you are seeing this, it is my birthday. The time recording it is not quite yet. However, I decided to steal an idea from a Mr. Cody Leach, who is a fellow movie reviewer on YouTube as well. And he did this idea a couple years ago where he went over his favorite movie or favorite horror movie of every year that he's been alive. I decided to do my favorite movie in general from every year that I've been alive, which was a much harder task than I expected it to be. But I have my list. It was a very hard list. There were so many movies from every single year that I absolutely loved, and it was hard to pick one out of all of them. So if there's a movie on here from a specific year that was your favorite, let me know in the comment section down below. This is my list. This is the way I, ranked them, because I think they meant the most to me as a child, or they meant the most to me as an adult, or whatever the case may be. So this is not going to be a perfect list. I don't even think these are my favorite movies of every year, just because there's so many of them. So it was very hard to choose. But let's go ahead and get into my favorite movie of every year that I've been alive. Now, this might be a shocker to some people, maybe not to others, but the year I was born, 1999. And my favorite movie from that year is Toy Story 2. This one was a hard year. I thought it was going to be easy to just go year by year. Oh yeah, that's my favorite, that's my favorite, that's my favorite. Nope, not at all. When a year something like, I think Blade came out this year, Blue Streak, Star Wars, I think, came out this year too. Those are all movies that kind of filled my childhood. But Toy Story 2, I had it on VHS. My parents had it on VHS. I would watch that movie all the time. Especially even when my little brother was born, he loved the Toy Story series as well. So we would, get the VHS. He'll watch it as soon as the credit starts rolling. He'll press rewind and we rewind the entire movie and we'll watch it again. So Toy Story 2 was always something that was there for me in my entire life. I've always loved those stories and characters. Like, I just remember also walking into like Toys R Us and buying the Woody and the Buzz Lightyear and stuff. So Toy Story 2 was definitely something that was a part of my childhood throughout the entire time, and I still love those movies to this day. Some of my favorite Pixar movies of all time. Now, coming in 2000, definitely not a childhood movie. I watched this movie way later in life, but it was definitely my favorite movie of that year, and that is American Psycho. You're gonna see that movie a little bit later on when I do my top 50 horror movies of all time in October. But this is just one of my favorite horror movies, one of my favorite psychological movies, one of my favorite books as well. But it's just one of those movies that I absolutely love. It's so stylized, such an interesting story, and psychologically kind of thrilling, and just with Christian Bale and playing this role beautifully. I quote that movie endlessly to this day. Me and my buddies all the time are talking about it. We always wanted to get the cards, the Patrick Bateman cards and stuff. I even thought about getting it tattooed on me at one point. So American Psycho is just one of those movies that I absolutely love. I love revisiting all the time. It's just one of those fun movies that is just so stylized, that kind of frames into my life in the way when you come to think about like the whole Wall Street stuff and the business stuff, because it's kind of where I work and stuff. It kind of fits into that realm. Obviously not all the psycho killing stuff, but it is a fun movie for me to watch, and it comes in at my favorite movie for 2000. Now, 2001 was another extremely hard one to pick, but I went and decided on Training Day. Training Day is very important to me too. I don't want to get into why, but there's certain things that happen in my life that I loved watching this movie, just because it kind of put me in that mental state in a way. But I absolutely love Training Day. I think that this is one of Denzel Washington's best roles. You also have Ethan Hawke here that does amazing. This has like some of the best dialogue, some of the best characters, some of the craziest things that happen within one day. That still kind of always bugged me a little bit, how all this happened in one day. But besides the point, I think Training Day is just one of the best movies of all time. For sure, it's in my top 50 movies of all time, maybe my top 20. So I absolutely love Training Day. Some of these movies surprise me that they came out in certain years. You think some of them are newer, some of them are older, and you're like, oh damn, that did come out that year, huh? And Training Day and American Psycho were two of them that I completely forgot came out in the extreme early 2000s. And then for 2002, my favorite movie is going to be Signs. Again, one of my favorite horror movies of all time. You'll see that later on this year in October. But this is just when M. Night Shyamalan was on a run. He had, I think it was Signs, Unbreakable, and why can't I think of the third movie that he did? But in a world where M. Night Shyamalan is one of the most controversial directors of all time, back then he was crowned as the new Spielberg, and Signs is one of my favorite movies from him. I think it might be my favorite movie from M. Night Shyamalan. It's one of the best alien movies, one of the best thrillers, and kind of in a way a psychological thriller as well, because you have all these people that are starting to kind of lose their mind and not know which way to go, and kind of a religious horror movie as well, because you have the priest that's kind of was originally very very religious, and then some tragedy happened and he kind of forgot all about that, and then his son being saved at the end, he kind of regains that kind of faith in himself as well with God and everything like that. So it becomes a very very much more of a crafty horror movie than just being a straightforward alien movie. It's all about that family and the dynamic and stuff like that. So I very much enjoy Signs, one of my favorite movies of all time, one of the best jump scares of all time. I remember just me and my buddy watching it in his house, and that jump scare in the birthday party where the alien walks across the alleyway is one of the best jump scares of all time. I just remember us screaming at the top of our lungs. So that was such a fun, funny, incredible jump scare. And then in 2003, Too Fast, Too Furious. The Fast and Furious franchise is something I've always loved. My brothers always talk about when they took me to go see some of the, I think this movie and Tokyo Drift, that I was just ecstatic just watching these guys racing cars and the NOS and all this different colorful stuff on the vehicles and the heist and everything like that. So Too Fast, Too Furious for the longest time was my favorite Fast and Furious movie. It's kind of gone up and down since then, but it's still one of my favorite ones. Every time I have nothing to watch or I don't know what to watch, Too Fast, Too Furious, I can watch it in a heartbeat. And it's just one of those enjoyable movies that it's very cheesy but very awesome. I'm a big car guy as well, so I obviously love the Fast and Furious franchise. And Paul Walker unfortunately passed away way too early. We could have gotten so many more of these movies, and I just love Paul Walker as an actor, and also as a character as Brian within these films. So Too Fast, Too Furious is one of my favorite movies of all time, and it comes in for 2003. And then for 2004, we have Spider-Man 2. This is my favorite Spider-Man movie of all time. I absolutely love the Doc Ock storyline, especially the fight sequence on top of the train. That's one of the most badass fight sequences, and ending with some of the most emotional kind of payoff with Peter Parker stopping the train and everybody carrying him through the train, and telling him, like, don't worry kid, we'll keep your secret, we know who you are, but we're not going to tell anybody. Like, that's just such a great emotional scene in a superhero movie, and especially in an era where superhero movies was not the norm. Spider-Man 2 absolutely blew my mind away when I first saw it, and he still is my second favorite superhero of all time, behind Batman, of course. And Spider-Man 2 is just one of those things that I watched endlessly as a child. I love Spider-Man. I love those characters. I love Tobey Maguire playing that character. I think he's done some of the best Peter Parker and Spider-Man with those movies. Besides Spider-Man 3, I still have enjoyment with that, but not the best. But Tobey Maguire and Spider-Man 2 and that story I absolutely love. So Spider-Man 2 comes for 2004. And coming at 2005 is going to be Star Wars: The Revenge of the Sith. This is my second favorite Star Wars movie, beyond Empire Strikes Back. And this movie and all the prequels get a lot of hate for having cheesy dialogue, bad CGI, bad effects. But I have fun with all of them. Those were my Star Wars movies, are the ones I grew up with. I watched those first before I've seen any of the other Star Wars movies. And Revenge of the Sith is such a great movie, especially when you get to that end fight sequence between Obi-Wan and Anakin. That is the best fight sequence I have ever seen in any Star Wars movie ever. I can watch that fight sequence alone multiple times. I watched the movie just to get to that fight sequence sometimes, and it just has some of the best emotional payoff. For all the bad acting in the prequels, that moment where you have Anakin on the side of the little cliff there next to the lava, and Obi-Wan kind of telling him that he used to love him, and you have that hi chow. That is just pure acting gold. For all the hate that all the prequels get, that is the absolute best moment out of all of them. That fight scene is the best moment out of all of them. I absolutely love Revenge of the Sith, and that comes as my favorite movie for 2005. And for 2006, we have The Departed, one of Martin Scorsese's best movies of all time, definitely in the top for me. You have amazing performances between Leonardo DiCaprio and Matt Damon. But again, I just love Martin Scorsese. When he is on his game, he is on his game, and The Departed is one of his best movies of all time, and I absolutely love that film. It's just such a masterful done movie by Martin Scorsese, by a top-notch director. So I absolutely love The Departed. Probably in my top 3 favorite Martin Scorsese films. So that comes in for 2006. And for 2007, a little bit of an oddball here. We have Superbad. There was other movies that I thought are better films than Superbad, but I just had to throw a little bit of comedy here. This is one of the best comedies of all time. I remember watching this movie for the first time, and it was just non-stop laughing the entire time. You have some kind of up-and-comers with, I can't remember his name right now, but like the guy that plays McLovin, and then you have, of course, like Michael Cera and Seth Rogen and Jonah Hill and stuff. This movie just felt like a bunch of friends making a movie for people to laugh. It was just pure entertainment. You have a little bit of a story there, but the main focus of the movie is to laugh and just have fun with it. And this is one of the best comedies of all time, in my opinion. Top 10 comedies for sure. So Superbad comes in for 2007. And for 2008 is going to be The Dark Knight. What else can I say? Heath Ledger's Christopher Nolan movie, Christian Bale as Batman. This is just one of the best Batman movies of all time, one of the best films of all time. Christopher Nolan is a masterful director. We have the late Heath Ledger, who gave one of the best performances of all time playing as the Joker. It's a shame that we never got to see more of that character, because I'm sure there was plans for him to return for The Dark Knight Rises. But besides that, it just was one of the best performances. Christian Bale's Batman, I think, does an amazing job as well. The directing, the shot choices, just the way this movie goes, there's obviously some flaws here and there, but for me, being a huge Batman fan, this is definitely one of the best Batman movies of all time, and Christopher Nolan is one of the best directors of all time, and Heath Ledger is one of the best Jokers of all time. So this comes in for 2008. And for 2009 is going to be Inglourious Basterds, one of the best movies by Quentin Tarantino. You have Christoph Waltz giving one of his best performances, his first Oscar, because of this performance as the Jew hunter. You have, why can't I think of his name right now? Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt. Giving this performance, as well as kind of like the Nazi killer. And this movie has just so many intense moments, just with simple dialogue and the looks and the shot choices and everything. It just makes for a very intense movie throughout the entire time, a very entertaining movie because how fun it is. Quentin Tarantino knows how to make a very tense but fun movie with very quick wit dialogue, very funny moments, but still giving you that kind of edge on your seat feeling where you don't know what's going to happen next. And like I said, with Christoph Waltz, his performance is absolutely amazing, and there's no doubt why he won the Oscar that year and won his second Oscar later on when it comes to another Quentin Tarantino movie as well, because he is just a fantastic actor. I don't know what else he's ever been in, but this is definitely one of his best roles of all time. And now we are in the 2010s, and for 2010 is going to be Inception, another Christopher Nolan masterpiece. I remember watching this movie for the first time, just tripping out the entire time. I absolutely love the way this movie is shot and designed, and then you have an ending that is so controversial. Did he get out of the dream? Is he still in the dream? I think he's still in the dream, but he just doesn't care enough, and he's happy to just be back with his family. But that's just me. You let me know your opinion on Inception, but I do think this is still one of Christopher Nolan's best movies of all time. We have amazing performances by everybody, great shot choice, great special effects. Christopher Nolan, again, just knows how to make a movie. This guy never knows when to miss, and this is definitely one of his best movies of all time. So Inception comes in for 2010. Now coming in at 2011, this one kind of surprises me. Fast 5. I didn't realize that it's been over 13 years since this movie has come out. That blows my mind. But Besides me being a big fan of the Fast franchise and Fast and Furious franchise, Fast 5 is just not only one of the better movies in the franchise, but it's just one of the best action movies of all time. You have one of the best chase sequences. You have the introduction of Hobbs, and he was awesome in this movie. Seeing him versus Vin Diesel, you have a great heist sequence, great action and like gunfighting moments between all the different favelas within Brazil and stuff like that. This is just one of the best action movies of all time. Throwing all the Fast and Furious stuff out the water. If this was just like, I don't know, they called it the Mystical Five, I don't fucking know, and just made this exact movie, this would be one of the, held as one of the best action movies of all time. And for me, it definitely is for sure my top 50 movies of all time. So Fast 5 comes in for 2011. And for 2012, we have Django Unchained. This is my personal favorite Quentin Tarantino movie of all time. So obviously I'm a lot biased as soon as I saw this, Django Unchained, when I was looking through all the movies of 2012, I was like, oh, nope, don't even look at the rest of the list. That is the one, 100%. And again, another amazing performance by Christoph Waltz here. You also have, why can't I think of his name? Jamie Foxx. You also have Jamie Foxx here giving an amazing performance as Django. You also have Leonardo DiCaprio giving one of the best performances that he's ever done as Mr. Candy, especially that sequence when they're all at the dinner table and he smashes his hand and he actually cuts himself. And just like a masterful actor that he is, he continues going. He doesn't even stop, doesn't even skip a beat. And it has some of the best action of all time. That kind of almost final battle within the Mr. Candy house where there's just blood splattering everywhere. It's such cartoonish but so gory at the same time. I remember seeing this movie for the first time when I was younger, and I only saw that sequence after they make the deal and just blood starts splattering everywhere. I've only saw that sequence when I was young, and I got so infatuated with it, and I had to watch the rest of the movie, and it became one of my favorite movies of all time, one of my favorite Quentin Tarantino movies of all time. So Django Unchained is for 2012. And coming number 13 is going to be The Wolf of Wall Street. This might be my favorite Martin Scorsese movie of all time. I am very disappointed that Leonardo DiCaprio did not win an Oscar for this movie. If anything, he finally won his Oscar, of course, when it came to Revenant, I think it's called. This should have been his Oscar-winning moment, in my opinion. He gives some of the best performances, some of the best funny moments of all time in film history. This is just such a fun movie, such a vibe, but such a crazy story. When you think about it, you watch this story or watch this movie, you're like, damn, there's no way that this could happen. And then you listen to like podcasts from the actual Wolf of Wall Street, and how he's like, yeah, it's a little bit watered down for the film. So you're like just thinking, what were these guys doing during this time? But it's just such a fun movie, such a quotable movie. Me and my buddies, like I said, we quote this movie all the time. I used to watch this movie. When I first saw this movie, I used to watch it like once every other day because I just loved it so much. So it's definitely one of my favorite Martin Scorsese movies, one of my favorite Leonardo DiCaprio movies, and just one of my favorite movies of all time. So The Wolf of Wall Street comes in at 2013. And for 2014, my favorite movie is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I do think that this newer trilogy is damn near a perfect trilogy, but Dawn of the Planet of the Apes 100% without a doubt is the best one out of all of them. You have amazing performances from all these actors playing as the apes, especially when it comes to Caesar and Koba. You have some crazy action sequences with Koba on the top of the horse, double wielding 2 machine guns, going through the fire. This movie is just non-stop throughout the entire time. It gives you so many chilling moments, especially with Caesar when he gives his performance. You get those goosebumps and stuff like that. So this trilogy is definitely one of the best trilogies of all time. But Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is just one of the best movies of all time, and it comes in for me for 2014. Now in 2015, my favorite movie was Mad Max Fury Road. This is my personal favorite Mad Max movie out of the entire franchise, and very similarly to what I said about Fast 5, I do think this is one of the best action movies of all time, some of the greatest set pieces, one of the longest but most intense chase sequences of all time, especially when you have Charlize Theron and also, damn, I'm blanking on names today, Tom Hardy. They just gave such a fun performance. I think Tom Hardy does an amazing job as Max. And people always say, in a world where Mel Gibson exists, why would you cast someone else besides Mel Gibson? But I think Tom Hardy does an amazing job with that performance and does an amazing job with the role. And this movie is just so stylized, and I just love all the battle sequences, all the chase sequences, the story. It just makes for a fun, entertaining, emotional story throughout the entire ride. And this is one of my favorite Mad Max movies of all time, and it's my favorite movie of 2015. Now for 2016, my favorite movie is Deadpool. This movie came out of nowhere, in my opinion. When I first saw it in theaters for the first time, I was not expecting what I walked into. It has one of the most funniest opening sequences of all time. You have Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool, who is a just perfect casting. There's no one else, in my opinion, that can play Deadpool. Just like how I said earlier this year, or not earlier this year, but a couple weeks ago, when it comes to Deadpool and Wolverine, no one else can play Hugh Jackman. No one else can play Deadpool. Absolutely hilarious. All the fourth wall breaking, all the jokes and sequences, and for being such a hilarious, action-packed movie, this has a lot of emotion to it as well, a lot of emotional payoff. So this is just one of the best comic book movies of all time that came out of nowhere because of Ryan Reynolds. And I absolutely love Deadpool. I love the Deadpool series. I wanted to learn a little bit more about that character, start reading the comic books and stuff like that because of these movies. But Deadpool comes in for me on 2016. Now for 2017, my favorite movie was John Wick Chapter 2. This is my favorite John Wick movie out of the entire series. I absolutely love kind of this whole sequence of him getting out and then having to get brought back in again because he owes someone, and now he has to go to these extreme lengths to try to again regain all of these weapons and training in his little bulletproof suit, and being overseas, and some of the best action sequences within this little kind of like party that he's in, and within the kind of the hallways and the underground kind of caverns that he has to fight through and stuff like that. Some of the best action and gunplay, some of the best weapons he's ever used in this movie as well. So I absolutely, John Wick 2, I think Keanu Reeves does the best in this film as well. This is just pure gore entertainment, action entertainment. I can't wait for whenever John Wick 5 comes out, because this is just one of the best action movie series that we've ever gotten, that came out of nowhere, came out of left field. I remember no one ever talked about John Wick until John Wick 3 came out, and then I heard about that, and then I went back to rewatch all of the other ones, or watch all the other ones for the first time, and John Wick 2 just had me enamored, and I was so invested into this character, and I absolutely fell in love with this series. So John Wick 2 comes in for 2017. And coming in at 2018 is going to be Avengers Infinity War. This movie, I've never been that big into Marvel before this. I obviously love like my Iron Mans, my Spider-Man. I love the like original Incredible Hulk and stuff like that from like the early 2000s that people don't like for some reason. But this movie, I just remember being in the theater. This is one of the only movies that I've seen 3 times in the theaters. But the first experience when you're in that theater, and just the fans and how crowded it was, and just the roaring energy, that just makes for a more engaging and entertaining watching experience. And I fell in love with that kind of love for these characters, and that's what kind of made me go into being more of a Marvel fan, because I've always been more of a DC fan. As much as all the movies for that DC has given us not hit at all, I still always love the DC characters more than the Marvel characters. But now I'm a little better, just mixing my love for all of them. I just love comic book characters in general. But I just remember feeling that energy in the movie theater, and I don't think I'll ever feel that feeling ever again like I did for Infinity War. And it's just a great movie as well. It's just such an emotional movie, such a great action movie for a comic book. So many great special effects and such a big spectacle. Like, this movie was an event. There's not that many movies that is an event like this, where if you don't see it, like, you're completely missing out. You are not in the know. Like, you have to go watch the movie. And that's why Infinity War just became such a special thing for everybody. And I think it just became one of my favorite movies out of the entire Marvel series in general. So Infinity War for me comes in at 2018. And for 2019, my favorite movie is Joker. This easily became one of my favorite movies of all time after first viewing. I absolutely love what Joaquin Phoenix did with this character. For me, Joker is my favorite superhero villain of all time. So I absolutely was worried when I first walked into this movie. The trailers definitely captured me when they first announced it, but I was worried what they're going to do. You know, is it going to kind of taint Heath Ledger? Is it going to be kind of a weird take on this? But I absolutely love what Joaquin Phoenix did with this character. I absolutely love what this movie did. Joker Fully Do is my most anticipated movie of this year. So I'm very excited to see what more comes from this character. But that movie, the first Joker, is just so emotional. It's just such great performance from Joaquin Phoenix. And I absolutely loved it. It instantly became one of my favorite movies of all time. So Joker comes in for me on 2019. And for 2020, my favorite movie, it was Bad Boys for Life. This was a big surprise. You know, I was not expecting that these characters, after 20 years, was going to come back and make a good enough movie to compete with the first two Bad Boys, because I absolutely love the first two Bad Boy movies. But surprisingly, this might be the best one. It has such a bigger emotional stake. It has such fun characters. It was so lively. Like, this is the first time in the Bad Boys franchise where I felt like there was an actual stake. They didn't feel like they were invincible, that nothing can kill them. There was an actual reason and a stake and emotional payoff and such a great story. So Bad Boys for Life for sure came out of left field. I had no expectation for this movie, but it absolutely surprised me. I think those are the best times, when you have a movie that you have such low expectations, but it's so well crafted that it just becomes one of your favorites of the franchise, one of your favorites of all time. And for me, Bad Boys for Life was my favorite movie of 2020. And in 2021, my favorite movie was Spider-Man No Way Home. This was, again, like Infinity War, just an event. You had to be there. You had to be there to see the Spider-Mans come back. All three Spider-Mans in one movie. Some of the old villains come back to fight all together. And these are the things like where, you know, people say like, oh, there's just going to be cameos. No, these were side characters. These were side characters within the movie that had a reason to be there. It had an emotional payoff. It had such a great gravity to them. Like, there was so much stakes with them in the actual movie itself. You know, they weren't there to serve just the fans, to be like, oh, look, it's Tobey Maguire. Oh, look, it's Andrew Garfield. That's not their purpose in the movie. Their purpose was meaningful, and it was, again, just such an emotional payoff, such a great Spider-Man movie. This might be my second favorite Spider-Man movie of all time, mainly probably just because it's Tobey Maguire, but this was, again, one of those movies that was just an event. And being in a crowded theater when Tobey Maguire shows up, when Andrew Garfield shows up, was just such an electrifying moment that I absolutely fell in love with this movie. So Spider-Man No Way Home is my favorite movie for 2021. And in 2022, my favorite movie was Top Gun Maverick. Again, another movie where it's like, are we really gonna be able to make an exciting movie after 25, 30 years? I don't remember when the original Top Gun came out. But is it going to be magical like that, like the original Top Gun? Are people going to care enough? What is this movie going to be like? And it's better than the first Top Gun. This movie actually has a stake to it. There's an actual mission. It's not just these guys trying to win an award for the Top Gun. These are all Top Gun winners going on this crazy mission. And the way this movie was shot and filmed is so intense and amazing. Watching the movie for the first time, I was never able to see it in theaters. Unfortunately, I had to watch it at home, but I wish they bring it back into theaters. I need to see it on the big screen, because this movie was shot so amazing. The sound design, the action sequences, the explosions, the way the planes fly. This was just a spectacle. This is for sure top 15 movies of all time for me. Top Gun Maverick came out of nowhere, just like a lot of these movies, and I absolutely love it. I cannot wait what they do when Top Gun 3 comes out. And in 2023, my favorite movie was Oppenheimer. This was one of the only movies as well that I've gone to the theaters multiple times. I typically go to theaters once and, you know, that's done, but this one I wanted to see multiple times at the midnight showing. So both times I stayed up till 3 in the morning watching Oppenheimer. And this movie was just amazing. I just love the performances. I love the story of it, you know, a story that I had no idea of. And I just love when a movie can inform me about a person, inform me about a moment in history that is so impactful, and it made it so entertaining and very digestible. Christopher Nolan did an amazing job making it very digestible when you have characters talking about chemistry and particles and all these different things, but still make it easy for the audience to understand while having such an powerful performances by all these different characters and have such an incredible storyline. It just made for me a 10 out of 10 movie, 5 out of 5 stars. It was my favorite movie of 2023, and it still is my favorite movie of 2023. And while 2024 isn't over yet, my favorite movie, it's hard. I don't think this movie is the best movie of this year, but it's the only movie I've seen 3 times so far in theaters. I've enjoyed it every single time. It was such a blast, and it was just such a fun time. Well, I don't think this is the best movie. I think this is the most entertaining movie that we've gotten so far of 2024. So that is going to be Deadpool and Wolverine. I've already given my thoughts. I have a review for that in my channel as well. So if you want to hear my full in-depth thoughts about that, definitely check that video out. But I just think this movie was such an amazing time, such a great fan service, had some amazing cameos, so many great funny laugh moments. It is my favorite Deadpool movie out of the 3 Deadpool movies so far. So Deadpool and Wolverine is my favorite movie so far of 2024. But that's gonna be it for this one, guys. Share your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you want to join me and let me know your favorite movie of every year that you've been alive, I would love to hear those lists in the comment section down below. I think that would be kind of fun to discuss that. But if you guys like talking about movies, TV shows, or video game related, make sure to hit that like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you.